HIPAA pharmacy accounts. In this particular example, we're going to be going into some detail around the HIPAA pharmacy dashboard and just the overall account profile for a pharmacist in this case. And we're going to be taking a look at a few specific examples that we've worked on. And we're going to be talking about some scenarios that we could kind of permutate from that and how that might apply in your situation, as well as notifications, and just some of the general use cases with integrations, as well as the HIPAA security and privacy rules. With that said, let's get into it. Okay, so in this first example that we're looking at here, you can see that we are on a pharmacy dashboard, and we're actually digging into some detail on the different requests to start with. Now, the first thing we want to point out about this pharmacy account and dashboard is the pharmacist has the ability to manage things like their hours and some of the different resources within their team. Now, in this immediate view, you can see that right out of the gate, we want them to see requests when they first log in and go to their dashboard. This is really helpful as a pharmacist who's interacting with these kind of online orders that are coming in to be able to see any kind of requests and then drill into the detail. So here I can go into the detail. I can see the physician who prescribed this, and I can also kind of drill into more detail there. I can also look at the medication requested and look into some detail there, and I can dig into the patient. I can go ahead and change some of the options or select options here that I can act on. Here you can see some of the details around the account. I can come in and manage my schedule, of course, manage basic account information as well. And then I can also go in and manage the doctors that I'm interacting with. So I can add doctors, look at the details for some of the doctors that we're currently interacting with, etc. So the idea here is that there's a lot that we can go through as a pharmacist. Some of the nuances of the pharmacist view include being able to go into the products and into the patients as well. But ultimately, we're able to kind of manage each of the requests that are coming in and have a workflow for notifying the patient if we're not able to fulfill a request, if we're in a situation where we need to talk to the doctor, possibly we just want to conduct a telehealth appointment, or etc. The other big thing about this process is we are doing some pretty detailed signature verification and just overall sign-off and proof of prescription in this process. So we've got to be able to kind of maintain a tracking and documentation for legal purposes of the different medication that's getting prescribed and delivered to the end patient. We also want to be able to keep the patients updated. So we have integration to a back office, if you will, pharmacy system that manages the inventory and the status and the shipping tracking and this kind of a thing. Now, ultimately, all of this has to be HIPAA secure and private. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about the HIPAA security and privacy aspects of this later, but suffice it to say that we're thinking about that throughout this entire process. Now, finally, one of the big things that we really want to hit on with pharmacists is they are busy. Generally, we're going to be interacting with pharmacists potentially in multiple scenarios where, they may need to access via a mobile device. They may need to get notifications and log in. They may be accessing via web or a kiosk. So in all of these kind of omni-channel or different channels of interaction, we want to make sure that we're giving them a consistent experience between the different interfaces. So ultimately, this is a responsibility for kind of the user interface and just the overall notifications and governance within each of the different omni-channel platforms. Now, of course, this all has to be secure and private as well. So we encourage you to work with someone who has experience doing this and be thinking about this as you're evaluating your upcoming pharmacy interaction from a HIPAA perspective. Okay, let's take a look now at another example. Okay, so in this example, we're taking a look at a lab test that this particular patient has ordered, and it's in the pharmacy dashboard. Here we're referring to them as a prescriber. So you could say this is a doctor dashboard as well. Depending on kind of the medium and the use case here, you could see this as a doctor or a pharmacist. Now, in this particular case, you can see we're getting this form. It's basically a PDF form that's already been pre-filled. So we're integrating with a back office kind of pharmacy system via API. And then we're coming in and we're providing some additional signature and possibly additional details on this particular form. Now, for what it's worth, this is something that can be really, really helpful for a pharmacist they can get this information. We can either pump it into their pharmacy platform, or we can have it available to them via this dashboard. They can see any open signature requests. They can see any kind of telehealth requests that they need to fulfill, and basically go into this dashboard and manage the different patients and the different status of the forms that they need to complete, as well as the kind of next steps in the process. This is a really interesting overall project, because in this project, we're delivering kits and we're leveraging telehealth and the ability to do these e-signatures all through this online HIPAA compliant platform. Now, what's really important about HIPAA in general is that we want to minimize the amount of information that we're collecting and keeping on hand for the patient. We also want to make sure that whenever we're interacting with the patient, we are letting them know what we're using their PHI data for, and specifically give them the ability to request removal and request the export of their data so they can bring it to another covered entity in order to kind of preserve it, if you will. So these are considerations that we want to recommend that you are at least thinking about. If you don't have the capability to do this quickly, you need to be able to do it in a manual way and let the customer know, let the patient know what the timeline is going to be, and be able to acknowledge a request for their information. The other thing from a security perspective, and this is just a very high level, is we do want to make sure that the data is encrypted in transit and at rest. We need to make sure that we have very robust logging, both for when data is accessed and when it's modified, and just in general for access to the system and what information was accessed. We also need to make sure that we have the ability to essentially leverage penetration and just overall system testing, and put in place what I would refer to as a zero trust environment, basically assuming that no matter what, whoever's interacting with the system, they don't have trust with accessing sensitive data until they've verified that they are who they are. Now, in most cases, we want this to be at least multi-factor authentication. Depending on the level or role that they have within the system, this may need to be even more robust. So we may want to have more than just a multi-factor authentication. We may want to have basically very secure triple or other forms of verification that are more robust than just a text of a code, for example. So long story short, the HIPAA compliance side of this is very important. Whenever we're getting into pharmacy data, this is really kind of an extreme, very clearly PHI data, and you want to be very respectful about how this is getting used within your internal organization, as well as how you're storing it in this public-facing environment. Okay, with that said, we'll talk next about next steps and recommended resources for you as you proceed with your pharmacy HIPAA project. Thank you for watching this video. If you've made it to this point, we just want to encourage you that there are options out there for getting into the weeds. One of the big things that we really enjoy at our company is providing detailed resources for HIPAA pharmacy type of projects. We work with a lot of different projects that are related to HIPAA, and we really enjoy providing complementary resources and guides and documentation, and really trying to point you to the source of information that you can get the truth about how it works and how it's supposed to be set up and all of that. Ultimately, the bottom line with HIPAA is it's extremely complicated, and a lot of people are very overwhelmed by it. Well, we have masterclasses and we have a lot of resources that, again, point to the government compliance and government rules, and the government has some great information that's available. You just may need some of it decoded for you. To the extent that you're interested in it, we offer a complimentary discovery process and complimentary strategy session with our business analyst team members who are very hassle-free, detail-oriented, and they will allow you to kind of share what your project is, talk with you about different examples, kind of like what I did today, but specific to your case, and then allow you to kind of get recommendations from our team at our expense and let you kind of decide how you want to proceed. A lot of times there isn't going to be a good fit, and we totally get that. So we're going to point you in the right direction so that you can get to the right outcome for your HIPAA project. If there is a great fit for us to work together, we certainly welcome you reaching out. And either way, we just want to say thanks again for watching the video. If you found this helpful, if you would, hit the like button. And if you would like to see more of these, feel free to subscribe, and we will look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.